This is the Yolobox Pro and this is the OBSBOT Talent. They're both portable monitors, encoders, and recorders, especially for my mobile live streaming people. And again, personally, I've used the Yolobox and I really love it. It's an amazing encoder slash device. And I actually just got the Talent from OBSBOT and I tested it, used it in my studio. I haven't used it in a live kind of setup, but I still actually love it. And to be honest, I feel like if I was going to shoot a mobile gig right now, I believe I will actually grab the OBSBOT Talent. Not because it's better, I'm gonna tell you why in this video, but also we're gonna be comparing both devices in case you're wondering which one you should pick up for your mobile live streaming. So let's go. What is going on, guys? My name is Sam. You're watching Live Production Tips and Tools, helping you master live streaming. So OBSBOT just released this little device for mobile live streaming. Again, this is an encoder. This is a little monitor. It's a 5-inch. This is about 7-inch-ish and ish, of course. I wanted to compare it to the Yolobox Pro. One of the main reasons why I want to compare this device to the Yolobox Pro is because actually the pricing is kind of close. It's kind of similar. Right now, the Yolobox Pro actually is at around $1,000, 900 slash ish, almost $1,000. This is $1,100. And looking at what you have, of course, we're going to compare all the specs, the inputs and outputs. It feels like this is a device that will give you more value, but you may be surprised some of the things that this little device has that the Yolobox Pro doesn't have that may influence your decision. Either way, I think both devices can do the job. But again, as I said in the beginning, I said probably if I had to choose between the two devices, I see myself picking up this one instead of the Yolobox Pro. And I'm going to tell you why. But I still have my Yolobox Pro as well. So let's start. For starters, of course, the specs, this is gonna accept any 4K input up to 4K 30 frames per second. This is only full HD unless something changed. Again, with the Yolobox, they keep updating the firmware, so don't quote me on that, okay? But this is gonna take 4K signal in, but it's going to only output, I'm talking about the Talent, is only going to output 1080 60 frames per second. The Yolobox does output 1080 60 frames per second as well, so that's like a tie. Another thing when it comes to inputs, of course, before we actually go to inputs, I want to talk about the size. This is about 7-inch big, so the monitor is actually really bigger. So if you see both devices, one next to each other, you can see that this one is actually almost half of the other one. So the Yolobox is really way bigger, okay? And this is just a baby, all right? So you can see. That's something that you have to consider. So if you need something really big to see your production, I believe the Yolobox is going to win. But if you need something minimalistic, like personally when I'm shooting weddings, that's probably most of the things that I do with the Yolobox, and people want to live stream their wedding. Usually I have 1 to 2 cameras max. I never use like 3 camera setup with the Yolobox, again, because this is mobile, so I have to attach it to my tripod. And with this device right here, because the Yolobox, I have the weight of my camera and tripod and the Yolobox, and I'm going around with it. So with this one, it's actually good for me. That's why I said I would prefer the Talent, because it's a little smaller. So it can actually, it's not gonna give me some extra weight. And of course, I have to watch out with the type of batteries that I use. And of course, I'm gonna be able to carry it anywhere. And I still have 2 HDMI inputs that I can connect up to 2 cameras. And yeah, it's gonna be easier because it's lightweight and can go on the top of my camera, which is another problem with the Yolobox. Yes, the Yolobox you can actually put on the top of your camera, but if you put on the top of your camera, it's actually going to be super heavy. It's super heavy. So, you know, imagine putting it on the top of your camera and adding some extra HDMI connections on the top of it. If you're using an HDMI transmitter, you're gonna have to put the receiver on the top of it. So it becomes impossible to put on the top of your camera. And most of the time I find myself just having to get like some sort of clamp, attach it on the side on my tripod. But with this one, I'm actually super comfortable putting it on the top of my camera because it's not very heavy compared to the Yolobox, and it's not that big as well. So I want to stay as minimalistic as possible. Another thing, when it comes to inputs though, the Yolobox does have 1, 2, 3 HDMI inputs and 1 USB. Now this one only has 2 HDMI inputs and 2 USB inputs. So basically the number of inputs are the same, but if you're looking for HDMI inputs, then the Yolobox has more inputs. So if that's important for you, you probably want to go with the Yolobox. Now, if you okay with like me, most of the time I don't go over 2 cameras inputs. I'm okay with 2 HDMI inputs, and the rest of the USB inputs I can use if I have a webcam, which is likely not gonna happen. I don't see myself using a webcam on a mobile shoot, but who knows? Now we can have like webcams on cameras like this one. Maybe one day I'm gonna try it. If you have the OBSBOT Tiny 2, OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite, or if you have the OBSBOT Tail Air, you can actually connect that into this device, and they're going to work really, really well together because they're all made by OBSBOT. On the top of that, you have the PTZ control, which I think the Yolobox does have the PTZ control built into it. So if there's something you're looking for, you're probably getting a point here for the OBSBOT Talent. If you need to have some sort of PTZ control, or if you own some OBSBOT webcams, they're going to work really, really well with the Talent. So another thing that the Yolobox has that the Talent doesn't have, the Yolobox has HDMI out. It has 1 HDMI out and the Talent doesn't. So if you need to connect an extra HDMI out to a monitor, this is probably something you're not going to be using or doing on a mobile shoot. Okay, that's another thing you have to know. Doing a mobile shoot, you're going around, you probably don't need an extra HDMI output. But if you're doing something more, covering an event in a room, inside a room, and you have a little desk, you may need maybe to connect your HDMI out to a bigger monitor, your Yolobox to a bigger monitor. You have a little desk and you can set up everything. In that case, the Yolobox is going to win if that's something that you need, because this one doesn't have it. However, it does have USB Type-C out that also the Yolobox does have. However, with the USB Type-C out on the Talent, you can actually use what they call DP mode or DisplayPort mode and be able to connect any DisplayPort monitor using a DisplayPort USB Type-C to DisplayPort cable, of course, and be able to get the same thing that you're getting on the Yolobox. So the fact that the Yolobox Pro is bigger, of course, is going to give you more real estate to add more inputs and outputs. However, with this device, it's trying to put everything together in a way that it's actually, you know, it's gonna save space, right? They're making a little more compact. Another thing, when it comes to inputs, they both have Ethernet ports for connecting Ethernet. They also have Wi-Fi. They do support Wi-Fi. They both work fantastically, no problem. Now, the OBSBOT Talent does support modem kind of SIM cards. Yolobox Pro, same thing. However, one good thing about the Yolobox Pro, you actually have a slot where you can insert an actual SIM card. For the Talent, you're gonna have to buy a USB dongle, put the SIM card inside the USB dongle and connect that through one of the USB inputs. That's how you can use it. But other than that, you can use Wi-Fi and Ethernet. For the Yolobox Pro, you already have it kind of built into it, which is awesome. So that's a point that the Yolobox Pro is actually winning on. And another thing that you actually need to know is the fact that the Yolobox Pro has an SD card slot that you can use for recording. However, it does not have any sort of internal memory. So when it comes to recording, I think the Talent actually does win because it's got an SD card slot, 1. 2, it also has a 64 gig internal memory for recording. So if you want to record and you don't have an SD card, you want to grab a quick clip here and there, you can actually use it, no problem. So that's another thing that the Talent is going to get a point over the Yolobox Pro. Another thing, the Yolobox Pro does record on SD card, of course, only. However, it does not do what we call ISO recording. So you're going to be able to record your program. You're not going to be able to record separate feed or separate inputs. However, the Talent does ISO recording. Again, you can record up to 2 feeds. You can choose either you want to do program, or if you want to do one of the cameras or one of the HDMI inputs. So you can record HDMI 1 and HDMI 2 separately, or you can do USB, one of the webcams, or you can do program out and one of the inputs separately. So you have ISO recording on this one, not on the Yolobox. Another thing, you have multi-streaming on the Yolobox. You can stream to many destinations. You can do YouTube, Facebook, Twitch at the same time, and just you gotta switch on, turn on, and you're gonna be able to multi-stream. No subscription required or anything. On the OBSBOT Talent, at first I was actually told that you could do 2 destinations at the same time. However, I tried it. By the time I record this video, it did not work. So hopefully maybe it's gonna be something they'll fix on the firmware update, where, because it has 2 encoders, the ones that you can use to record, they do the ISO recording. Hopefully you're gonna be able to do that in the future, but for now you can only go live on 1 destination. Okay, best case scenario, you're gonna be able to do 2 destinations at the same time, but you don't have that. Other than that, for the software, in my opinion, I've used both softwares. They're almost the same, really. There's no big differences. Of course, you're gonna have, I feel like the audio on the OBSBOT, the audio mixer on the OBSBOT Talent looks better. I like the layout and everything, but they all do the same thing. You can get, your microphone in. By the way, they both have microphone in, and they both have headphones out for monitoring your audio, which is great. And yeah, you can, turn on, turn off, inputs, audio inputs and stuff like that through the mixer, which is awesome. So for both devices, everything works as intended. So one other thing that I wanted to mention is about the battery. So this one, the Talent, has 2 battery slots that you can actually swap. So they're swappable. So if for one, this one dies, I can remove it and it's not gonna turn on, and I'll keep streaming, go charge it, and then bring it back and go charge the other one. I can also maybe have multiple batteries and keep swapping them. However, with the Yolobox, it only has an internal built-in battery. So if it dies, you're actually done for the day. So you can do much about it. Okay, so that's a con for the Yolobox, because everything is kinda, built into it. And I think I feel more safe and more secure when I'm using the OBSBOT Talent because of the batteries. Now, you can still, if you have access to power, you can still plug either the Yolobox or the Talent. They both have AC power adapters. You can connect them, no problem. I wanted you guys to know that, because the Yolobox battery can last up to 4 hours. However, I've used it multiple occasions where, because the screen is bigger, so it's gonna take a lot of power, right? And sometimes I have to dim the screen a little bit because I want to save the battery, therefore I can see my image the way I want to see it. So I don't enjoy using it because I'm trying to save the battery. So that's something you have to be aware of using the Yolobox Pro, unless you have some sort of portable power, like a power bank or something that can connect into the USB Type-C for charging, which is another input that I did not mention actually. So that's that. Another thing that I did not mention, actually, it has 2 mic inputs instead of being just 1 mic input. So the Yolobox, so if you want to connect up to 2 microphones, that's possible. But for me, I don't see it being like a deal breaker, because anyways, with any of the 2 devices, you can still connect your audio through the camera that's bringing audio over HDMI. So for me, it's not a big deal really. Still see, either device being useful in that regards. Okay. Last thing, for USB Type-C, of course, if you want to send a signal to OBS or any other streaming software for Zoom calls, that's if you are back in the office. Mostly these features are going to be useful when you are in your office, like me doing some demo, connecting it to OBS to be able to preview stuff like that. You can do that on either device using the Type-C, USB Type-C output on the Talent and on the Yolobox, and be able to see the feed coming through. So last thing that actually going to talk about that the Yolobox doesn't have is something called SRTNDI. Now, I believe with the new firmware on the Yolobox, you can actually bring in some NDI. If I'm not mistaken, you guys can correct me in the comment section. You can bring in some NDI inputs, but I don't believe you can export or stream to NDI with the Yolobox Pro. Now, the Yolobox has another device. It's like a bigger brother that does more than what we're talking about. Does 4K streaming and ISO recording and stuff like that. That's the Yolobox Pro, the Yolobox Ultra, something like that. It also has the mini version, a smaller version of it. It's a little cheaper, that actually has less inputs that you can actually consider, and doesn't do more, but it just probably gonna be cheaper compared to the Yolobox Pro. However, what I wanted to mention is the fact that the Talent can output SRT, right? Which is major. SRT is major. Somebody streaming, you can stream an event instead of streaming it to YouTube like directly. You can actually stream over SRT and send that signal to someone who's running another bigger production. Send them the feed. Maybe you're covering an event downtown, elections or whatever, something happening on the street, and you want to send to someone who's kind of seated and just, you know, maybe running some other stuff like ads and having other cameras, or having people actually doing like, you know, another bigger production, people seated in the office using something like, you know, OBS or using vMix or using any other software that can take SRT over network, send that feed back to someone else. And that's, for me, that's actually major. Also you can stream over NDI if you are in the same room. Now with NDI, you have to be in the same room, kind of connected to the same network. And I tested both and they work perfectly. You can do RTMP pull, RTMP push. So somebody can stream to this device, by the way, so you can pull someone's stream into the device as well, which is amazing. So I feel like the OBSBOT Talent has slightly better features, but again, everything that I mentioned here, most of the time, this device may seem a little more expensive compared to the, just $100 more compared to the Yolobox Pro. However, what I want you to pay attention to before maybe you making conclusions, which one is better, in my opinion, they're all good, okay? It all depends on you personally, which feature that you're actually looking for. Do you prefer something a little bigger, or do you prefer something a little smaller? Do you think an extra HDMI output or input is gonna be a deal breaker? Is this something that you need, or just want to have it on a device and you're never gonna use it? Or do you think, you know, having something a little lighter with less HDMI inputs, but that's the job? Do you need SRT? Do you need NDI? Do you need to pull an RTMP stream? You know, those things. So this is gonna depend on you. Again, I'm gonna leave a link to both devices down below if you wanna check them out. Personally, again, I own both switchers now, and I still believe I would go, if I was going to shoot a mobile, something like a wedding where I'm kind of going around, moving fast, and kind of, you know, carrying everything on one tripod or monopod. I think I would go with a Talent. Now, if I was in a place where streaming an event, it's kind of semi-mobile, so maybe I'm gonna be in a church and I'm gonna have a little desk where I can set up my Yolobox and everything. I think I'll go with the Yolobox because it's gonna give me a bigger screen, and it's also easier to add a secondary screen if I want to. So this really depends on the type of event that I'm covering. But again, I don't want to make conclusions for you guys, so you want to make sure, actually let me know what you think down below in the comment section. And I hope I was fair to both devices because they're both lovely. Oh, before I leave, this is 100% metal. 100% metal, okay? The build quality on the Talent is actually exceptional. It's really 100% metal. So it's 100% metal. It's kind of built kind of to be for kind of heavy duty productions. And the Yolobox is more like semi prosumer consumer kind of thing, kind of build. So it's not heavy duty. It's kind of plasticky. It's still tough, but if I was to drop it, I think I'll feel more safer dropping the Talent than dropping my Yolobox Pro. So that's something that you have to know. Again, as you can feel in here, plastic. And oh, this one does come with the hood as well. 100% metal. So you want to install your hood, it's gonna be helpful for the sun. It's gonna install like this. So this is gonna be super helpful if you are in a sunny place, which is common for mobile live streaming. It also comes with this little 2 screws that you actually gonna use to attach your hood, which is amazing. So I wanted you guys to know that. Let me know what you think. Other than that, if you want to see a full walkthrough of me actually showing off the device and how it works and the software part, everything that you need to know, guys, me going live to YouTube, you want to make sure you check out this video right here. I meant the talent. Also, if you want to see how I use SRT and NDI, I'm going to walk through how to set it up if you're interested in a device and see how you can actually set up your SRT streaming using the OBSBOT Talent. I'm going to link the video right here as well. So make sure you check them out and I'll see you there, guys. Take care.